Welcome to the Business and Interiors podcast, the place where the world of interior design meets the essence of business success. I'm your host, David Del Greco, alongside my co-host, Cinzia Moretti of the award-winning Moretti Interior Design Studio. Our mission is to help interior designers run, streamline, and grow their business with confidence. In this podcast, we dive into the professional journeys and personal stories of some of the most inspiring interior designers and creative entrepreneurs. Each episode offers a glimpse into the strategies and experiences that have helped shape their business in this ever-evolving industry. So tune in, get inspired, and join us as we uncover the stories behind the design.
Welcome to the podcast. Today's guest is Samantha Pope, founder and creative director of Samantha Pope Interiors. The studio is based in Hertfordshire and is known for creating luxurious and bespoke interiors that blend modern sophistication and classical elegance. Samantha, lovely to have you here.
Thank you for
Hi,
having
Samantha.
me. Hello. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
And you too. Yeah, it's been a while since we've
we met a few years back.
Yeah. Having dinner over awards ceremony.
Yes, it's true.
Which one was that?
I think it was design.
The International
Design
Architecture
Award.
Awards.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
It was one of the
So many awards
Design and
nowadays.
Architecture
So many
Awards, yeah,
awards.
one of those.
Yeah. Samantha, can you tell us your journey? How did you become an interior designer?
I'm going to give away my age now. So I knew that I wanted to do interior design. So from school, I went into university and I studied interior architecture and design. That was a sandwich design course degree. So I think it was my year 3, I was able to do work placement. And then I decided to get experience within an architectural company. And that's because I wanted to understand more about the bones of a building rather than just, fluffing cushions. Most people think that's all we do. But no, it's more about understanding the bones of the structure. And I learned a hell of a lot. I went back to do my final year and I stayed at that company part-time whilst I did that. And then I stayed there for another 2 years. So my first 4 years were based in architecture before I then moved on to the interior side. And that company, the architectural company, introduced me to the luxury residential industry.
Okay.
So we was working on huge projects from the planning and building regs side, and then I actually moved to the interiors working on the same projects. So I actually moved to the interior design company that was working on the same properties.
Amazing.
So I actually there was 2 properties I worked on that I worked on the planning, building regs, and then the interiors. It's really nice. So that was a long time ago. So I think that was about 19 years ago now. So, yeah, it's
Time flies.
it's been an experience. Learned a lot along the way. Worked at various design companies. And eventually, once I had children, I had a lot of fear that I had to deal with, the fear of trying to be the mum you want to be and then juggling this career that I still wanted to keep. And I think it did hold me back a little bit, but I got over that eventually. But yeah, eventually I did, start up my own company and where I am now. So that's trying to cut it short, but there's a lot in between.
And I know your husband, he's a property developer.
Yes.
And you worked with him.
Yes.
How was the experience?
Good. Yeah. That actually helped me get to where I am today because my husband, I always, alongside my jobs, I was in the evenings and the weekends doing whatever design and he needed for his projects, doing planning applications and things like that as well. So when I became a mum, I was able to still work doing his stuff. But once my kids got to a certain age, I had this fear of going back into a design company and then thinking that I just couldn't do both. I couldn't work full time and be the mum I wanted to be,
Didn't have that flexibility.
Yeah, I didn't really have a role model at the time that I could really look up to and be, understand that I could do both.
Right.
So I eased myself in. My husband introduced the interiors into his development business. So we sort of tweaked the website and integrating my services. And then I just took on smaller projects outside of his projects whilst the children were young. And as the years went by, I took on more and more projects. As my children got older, I was able to work more. Now I've got my own company separate to my husband's and, working full time.
So when did you go solo officially? How long ago was that?
It's kind of like mixed. It's really hard to actually pin the date because so there's certain projects that I took on that was actually under my husband's brand at the time. But then that made me, I suppose my confidence grew over the years, and it made me realise that I just needed to create my own sort of brand identity around these, attract more of those luxury end projects.
Yeah.
Because there were sort of mixed sort of inquiries coming through. Some weren't quite the ones that I was after, and then some really exciting ones. And I thought, right, I really need to target now my brand, just focus on the high-end residential. So I did initially create Samantha Pope Interiors and the website, but it was still within my husband's business. So it was like a trading name of that. But it was actually 2.5 years ago that I actually separated it and it became its own limited company.
Right.
So the kind of dates, so it's a bit hard to pinpoint when it officially.
Yeah.
In my mind, I do it from the date I became a limited company, because in my mind, that's it, separate. But the journey's been a lot longer than that.
Sure. And how did you feel when you started your own studio and trying obviously to get your own clients basically?
Yeah, it's not easy, really, because you're trying to get your name out there, and not everyone knows, unless you've got money behind you to really put into marketing. And I'd already invested enough building the website, and things like that. So I had to ease myself in. So it was a gradual process. Luckily enough, I was busy with the projects that I had, but it took a while, I think, to really build up that brand identity. And most of it was through sort of networking. Now I'm realising a lot of the connections that I have now were actually made or the seeds were planted 2 or 3 years ago. So it does take time.
When you mention brand identity, do you mean your design philosophy, your core values?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I decided to launch my own brand, I really needed to hone in on, right, these are my values, my core values, that are the foundations to every design project moving forward. And if you want to use my services, you kind of have to buy into that.
Okay.
So it was about creating the website, really highlighting my core values, and yeah, just the message of well-being is a big message behind my interiors, because I truly believe that your home can improve your overall well-being. As we know, we've got tricks and lots of tricks up our sleeve that we can use to improve practicality, functionality, flow, through lighting, through colours, all sorts, and really pinning down the client's brief, actually understanding the underlying, they might not voice. Clients may say, this is what I want,
but
that's because their friends got that, and so we have to read between the lines, and sometimes it's like, right, okay, this is what you've said you want, but based on your lifestyle and your routines, this would actually work better for you. And it's understanding that, and so designing spaces that actually suit their lifestyle.
Of course, yeah.
And working, because you have the experience of working on your own projects, but also the experience of working with a developer.
Yes.
What is the difference?
With a private client, I find that I can really go into the detail a lot more, in the sense, if I understand where all the furniture is going to be placed, we can tailor the lighting and the electrics, all of the layouts to suit. When you're doing more of a development project, so not all of my projects are furnished. Right. So you're trying to think, right, how can I future-proof this?
I see.
And ensure that whoever buys this they've got options to place their furniture and, TV points, and lighting that can suit multiple sort of layouts. So you have to think like that.
Sure.
Obviously budget as well, because the budgets are usually,
A bit tighter.
So you do have to put your development hat on, and then you've got your private client hat on. So different angles.
And what are property developers look for when working with an interior designers? Because obviously you said earlier that maybe private clients may buy into your core values, your design philosophy. Is it different for a property developer?
I think the core values still remain, but because in terms of, one of my values is timelessness. So it's creating designs that last. An element of sustainability. I'm trying to sort of push that further. Well-being, obviously, but you can do that a lot in the palette and the materials. When buyers come in, they get that sense of, that feeling that I love this space. And you can do that just adding warmth in materials and textures. So they still apply, but I think it's just a little bit more pared back. Right. With a private client, you're really looking more into their lifestyle and their routines, and more how the furniture side, the FF&E, can actually also impact their well-being.
Yeah.
So if some designers would like to start working with a developer, what advice can you give them?
Is to really understand the market as well. Luckily, with my husband being a property developer, I do really understand what sells and what buyers are looking for, what is needed. It is a different mindset when you're doing design for property developers. So you would really have to research the target market. Depending on the developer, we'd sometimes get given like a client profile, especially if it's going to be furnished. They'll say this is the client, their age, their job, and then we'll kind of design it so it's a little bit more personal. But not all of my development projects are like that, and it's more so interior architecture. So it's doing the design of the structure of the building, and allowing the design to suit somebody else bringing their furniture to the property. So it is a different hat, and you do have to kind of do your research and research what the properties are selling for in the area, and just look at the styles, just get a really good vibe for what's kind of selling. Yeah,
I guess also the area that you're designing in also kind of helps you, informs obviously what kind of interiors you can create as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously my husband's has a certain area that he kind of works in, so we know that quite well. So you do really have to do your research locally in that area.
Cool. You mentioned a few times the word mindset.
Yes.
I know that it's really important to you.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
How and why?
So there's a number of things. Growing up, I witnessed struggles that certain family members had, and I just feel like I've always been aware that your mindset can really, you can view a situation. I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. Two people can experience the same situation, but they can have very different outlooks
Absolutely.
on that.
Yeah.
And it's all down to how they interpret it and how they wish to move forward with it. So I've always just been aware of how powerful your mind is. You know, I have down days and I have good days, but without the down days, you don't realise how good the good days are. So you need both. You need that sort of the balance. But I also, around about 6 years ago, I had a panic attack, which came out of nowhere. I didn't know what was happening at the time, and I just couldn't breathe. So it once I realised what it was, I thought, gosh, this is because I'm suffering from anxiety. So at that moment in time, I realised I'm worrying too much. So that kind of got me looking at my mindset really sort of deeply. I started consuming lots of books and podcasts and things like that. You know, I do believe in the law of attraction, you know, and what you give out, you attract. So it's very much about, you know, I think I've kind of picked this from another podcast, but can't remember whose podcast it was, so I'll just claim it's mine. But I've kind of created this quote, which I've put in my office and in my gym at home, and it says, "My current self is defined by my future self."
I heard that too, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a very powerful
Yeah,
sentence.
it is. It really is. So whenever I'm having, you know, I still have those moments where maybe I'm feeling a lack of confidence one day, or just a bit not so bubbly another day, and I'll just look at that quote and I'm like, it reminds me, yes, just remember where you want to be, and then you make actions and decisions now that will get you to where you want to be. So yeah, it's a number of things, I think, from my childhood, witnessing struggles that certain family members have had, and realising that, you know, I just knew that if they could reframe their thoughts, they could have maybe helped themselves out of that situation. And then obviously experiencing anxiety myself. And
you're not the only one, because everyone, you know, has their highs,
yeah,
lows, good day, bad days.
Yeah.
Because, you know, as a...
And I do believe that you need the low days to really
appreciate
appreciate the high days.
Yeah.
But now I just feel when I do have stressful days or low days, I know I've got the tools to snap out of it.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, you need to have that self-awareness first, right?
Yeah.
Because people can have good days and bad days, but they don't take anything from it, do you know?
Awareness is the key.
Yeah.
You know, as long as you're aware, right, I'm not feeling quite myself today, and I just know what I need to do to make myself feel better. And I've got certain things I do.
What do you do?
So so obviously being a mum and a business owner, it is hard to get time to yourself.
Yeah.
So for me, it's really important that I factor in me time every day, whether that's 5-10 minutes, hour. I call it my little holiday each day. So I get up early.
Okay.
So
What time normally?
5:30.
Okay.
Oh, like me.
Yeah. So I'm trying to gradually push it to 5, but
it's hard in winter.
It is hard, yeah, and winter is harder. But I'm 5:30 at the moment, but that allows me to get up, and then I meditate, and then I exercise. But whilst I'm meditating, I like to, it's more visually, right, planning my day ahead, or if I've got decisions to make, I'm sort of, a lot of things, answers come to me whilst I'm just having that real quiet moment. So that's my holiday every day before the madness of the children and the school run and things like that. But then I also get my my walk in the woods with my dog, which I love. Sometimes I do an extra walking meditation, or I listen to podcasts or books. So that's my me time. And then the rest of the day is just busy. I just feel like I'm just non-stop.
Do you use affirmations as well in your routine?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So what I try to do is, I'm a big fan of Dr. Joe Dispenza. I don't know if you're familiar.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Love it.
So what I love about him is that he explains the law of attraction using science and quantum physics, you know. So it makes it a lot easier to understand for somebody who's less spiritually, you know, I describe myself quite spiritual, but having science to back it really helps. So he explains from a neuroscience point of view what's happening and what happens to your brain waves. So that's why I like to get up and meditate first thing, because you're still in that theta brain wave, which is when you're able to program your subconscious. And if I listen to affirmations, I'll do it at night time, and I'll put my earphones in and I listen to them, because again, that's as you transition through that theta. So yeah, they're the two best times. I don't always have the time. You know, sometimes I'm so exhausted and at night that I'm just, my head will hit the pillow and I'm gone. But if I can, I'll squeeze in affirmations.
We do have exactly the same routine. And I find this so a push for the day.
Yeah.
If you feel much, much better.
Absolutely.
Afterwards, because, you know, when you start your day, it's non-stop.
It is.
And you have no time, as for you said, your holiday, time for you. That's so important to face everything is, as a mom, as a business, as everything else that's life throw at you, right? Yeah. So I mean, I always advise to everyone. I even trying to put in my team, shall we do 10 minutes of meditation lunchtime? Someone say yes, something no. But again, you had to be quite spiritual, I think.
I think so.
To do that. So I am as well. So that's really pushed me. But, you know.
And I think, I mean, I'm trying to get my daughter to meditate with me, but she's too high. She's like, no, Mum, I don't want to sit down.
You know that now they're trying to do at school. Because my son said, oh, yeah, we done some meditation at school, even 5 minutes. But there's something that they're introducing as well in the education. Yeah. And I think it's so important.
I think it's amazing. I really do. And, I mean, the main thing is my children see me do it, I think. So they see me do that in the morning. They see me work out. And I just feel like as long as I'm putting good, you know, I hope to be a good role model for them. You know, I try my very best. But, you know, I'm not going to force them. But, you know, sometimes I do say, like, Mummy's just going to finish her meditation and then she'll sit next to me and just let me finish. But I'm like, you can join in with me if you like. And she's like, no, Mum.
I found that sometimes the meditation, you know, sometimes when you said answers comes to you, helps you with your clients.
Yes, yeah.
Because I found that.
Yeah. I've also got this lovely, and I can share it with you if you like. It's a lovely walking meditation. It's just a 10-minute one. Now, usually I'm running in the woods and listening to podcasts or audio books with my dog. But depending on where I am, you know, if I've got meetings first thing, it might be a shorter dog walk in the woods. But then I have this 10-minute meditation and I love it. And it's the same one I do. But it's more of a gratitude, you know, and I love the woods. It's my paradise. I love the trees. And as I'm walking around, you're thinking about everything you're grateful for. And then at the end of it, I talk out loud, so people watching me must think I'm crazy. But I talk about what I'm grateful for, and then I talk about the plans for my future plans for the business. And there's this, it's probably because as I'm walking, it's the same spot of the woods. All of a sudden, I just feel like answers come. And I'm like, yes, that's a good point. I have to quickly get my phone out and I'll note it down. Like things like an article I needed to write, just the topic came to me. It's like, well, quickly note this down. I need to say this or this. Just things like that. I just find it so helpful. It's like you're opening this door to
the universe, and then
information comes. So I love it.
Amazing.
Love it too. You were talking about woods, walking in the woods. So you live in Hertfordshire as well,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
How do you find, in terms of interior designer, living outside London with everything happening in London? How do you deal with that? Do you find difficult to attend events, or, you know, it's a long way, or do you find yourself a little bit isolated because you're outside and you think you're missing something?
My problem sometimes is I do have to travel into London, which is absolutely fine because I have to travel into Source and some projects that I have this way. But sometimes the events, most of the time, it seems to always happen to me actually, but when the big events are happening, the interior events, it's like I'm so busy with work and I'm non-stop. And then I'll just think, I literally cannot get a day out of the studio this week. Because, you know, sometimes you just need to factor in studio time. And it just seems to happen at the moment. It's like, oh, bugger, I've missed that one again. But look, today I'm able to source because I'm in London today. So I'm making a good use of the day while I'm here. So I try not to beat myself up. I can't attend everything. But there is a new event actually out near me. Design Central is called.
Okay, yeah. Yep.
So it's in a hotel in actually 10 minutes from me. So once a year, I think they do Scotland.
Different venues, right? Yeah.
Northern England, Devon,
Yep.
like that. So once or twice a year it might be. It's in this beautiful hotel near me. And I'm like, great, because it's not as big as Decorex and, you know, events like that, but there's some key suppliers there that it's really worth going to. So that's really nice that they're spreading out further.
And when you're in London, where do you go normally to source your furnishings and pieces? And do you work with artisans as well?
Yeah. So usually Chelsea Harbour,
Right.
around that's where I'm heading to this afternoon. So yeah, it's quite good that most of their suppliers are kind of all in that area, around that area. But there are some new suppliers that I've actually found through the Design Central that are like Midlands, you know, so I haven't been there yet, but I've got samples that they're happy to send. So yeah, it's good.
Amazing.
And do you work with, do you have your team with full employees, or you work with freelance? How do you manage your team and your work?
Yeah, so at the moment, I have two other, it depends, it's 2 or 3 sometimes. I have one designer and one CAD technician that are more or less full-time but remote, but they're on a freelance basis. And then I have another one that, as and when I need, they help out. what I'm realising as I'm growing is I need to start offloading more, and I'm trying to offload more of the CAD because I need to free up my mind to focus on the creative stuff. And I was finding I'm spending too much time on CAD, and that's something that I still do quite a bit on CAD, but you know, we're working on tender packages at the moment, and I can't do that all myself. And when I've got other projects that are sourcing FF&E and procuring, and so I tend to have a fantastic designer that works with me, and she's very much technical based, so she does a lot of the CAD work. But she lives local to me as well, so we meet up once or twice a week, and then the rest of it is remote, and then my CAD technician's remote, and same with my other designer that dips in and out as and when I need.
And in our conversation, you mentioned that obviously you had you studied design and interior architecture, but you didn't learn anything about business or running a business. So when did you do that, and how did you do it?
So I had to learn along the way. I think I learned a lot through my husband's business, because whilst my children were young, I took over dealing with a lot of the admin side. Whilst designing his projects, I was dealing a lot with the accounts and invoicing and things like that as well. So I already, before I launched my own company, I was already familiar with Xero, you know, and all of that, and VAT and CIS and all of the tax, you know.
Yeah, for people who don't know, Xero is an accounting software.
Yes, yeah. Xero is an accounting software. So I was already familiar with that. But what I had to really understand is things like cash flows. Our accountants are very helpful. So they kind of have business coaching element to their business. Okay. So I signed up to a course with them, and they sort of helped with things like that, helped with templates for cash flows and things.
Profit and loss and balance sheet.
Exactly. So they helped me with that, and they'll talk me through anything that I don't understand. But then the other elements of the business, I've just learned through absorbing podcasts more so, because I don't feel in the UK the design industry is open to talking about the business of interiors. It's a bit more of a closed book. And in America, I feel like it's very different. They openly talk about it more, and about pricing and topics like that. So even though I listen to a lot of podcasts in America, I've grabbed what I can out of that. And because they do work a bit different, I don't feel like it's quite the same. But I have just grabbed the information that I can from them, and even through other people's experiences and things I should add to my T's and C's, and you know.
What kind of things specifically did you take, you know, from those podcasts, or
just things like clauses to add to your T's and C's. So typically, I found that I was doing extra work. You know, if the client, oh, can you do this? You know, extras, and often we're too kind and we do it. But now it's like anything that's clauses that highlight anything that's outside of the original scope of works will be priced at X amount per hour, and just things like that that were really, really helpful when you're quite new in business.
Did they help you as well setting up your own pricing model? And because there is a huge debate about how to price
not
projects.
So much on that perspective, because I feel like it's really hard. They're, you know, dollars. Their pricing structure, I think, doesn't quite work here. That's something I've had to learn as I go along, and that's something I wish I could have learnt here.
Right.
I've done lots of fee proposals over the years, and it's just I was tweaking at every project I was quoting for. And now I've got a template that helps me massively. I've just created my own template that really helps me price a lot quicker. But it took me years to actually get to that. I found that I was spending so much time pricing projects, and I was saying to myself, surely there's an easier way to streamline this, and I will just keep going and going and going until I've got the right template. So I've set up my own templates, but now the information I've set up, I could easily help others with, you know, but I wish I had that help years ago.
And how do you charge nowadays then? Is it like a flat fee or?
Yeah, so I do charge a flat fee, a design fee,
Yeah.
based on the time that I believe the project's going to take. I feel like in America it's different. They do more of an hourly. Yeah, I don't understand how that would work for me, because I feel like if I was charging by the hour, the client may be a little bit more. They may not take.
They may question it, and why is it taking you so long?
And maybe not. They might hold back. You know, this is costing that much. Let's not do that room. Or I'd rather just account for the whole project, work out the hours I think it's going to take, and you know, it's at our own risk. But I think I work out the time well.
And do you use that principle as well when you do project coordination as well?
Yes. So in my template, I allocate time based on the service that the client needs. So if they need the project coordination, if it involves interior architecture, FF&E, project coordination, I've got that all there. So I allow for the time. But I can tailor my quotes to the project, because not every project requires everything.
Yeah. Going back to your services, I've noticed that you also offer e-services, e-design.
Yes.
Was that born from, when COVID happened, and is it working for you?
It wasn't actually. It was. I at the moment I open the books when we have spaces. So at the moment the books are closed for the e-design. But what was happening is I was getting some lovely inquiries through, but they were only for like 1 or 2 rooms. And I've had to sort of turn them away, because it kind of at the time it was too much lengths for me to go to visit the property, just for one or 2 rooms. So then that got me thinking, actually, a lot of these people are happy to implement themselves. So I thought, what if I create a remote service that they can then utilise my design ideas. I've got various packages, and so it depends on their level of guidance that they need. And then they can implement it themselves.
Right.
So it's not really something that I would project manage. So it's kind of a remote service that doesn't include project managing.
Yeah. And do you feel that more designers should do something like that in order to, again, trying to get new revenue streams to the studio, or?
I think it.
Was it always just a nice to have add-on?
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to have. However, it's something that it depends on your vision. You know, some designers like to just stick with, one avenue.
Yeah.
And then there's others that will have multiple avenues. For me, I was kind of sticking to this avenue, but then I was getting these inquiries, and I'm thinking, hang on, there is a potential other avenue here that of interest. So that's why I did it. However, with the projects we've got on at the moment, and we're in key design phases, and we we're just in a really busy period that I've had to close the e-design temporarily. So as soon as I have sort of spaces available, I'll open it back up again. So yeah, it's something that I'm not sure if I will keep it, but for now it works.
Sure.
And going back to your freelancers, because I know that a lot of designers, they do want help, they need help. And they say, okay, let's go with the freelancer, probably is better for me.
Yeah.
But how do you find freelance people, good freelance people you can trust? Do you advertise, or do you, from other designers, the other people available?
Yeah.
How do you find your freelance?
It's not always easy, to be honest. I have, on the CAD technician side, I've had a few that not quite worked out. I've been very lucky with my designer, my technical designer, because she's somebody that I met through in the industry. And then she decided to go freelance, and she just let me know through LinkedIn. And I was like, oh,
Perfect.
I really need some help right now. And because we was already familiar with each other, that's worked out really well. And I was like, great, let's meet for coffee. I have lots of drawings I need to crack on with. So that one's worked out really well. But again, we'd already met. It wasn't like I was ready to put an advert out to look for somebody, and just so happened the universe brought her to me.
Exactly. That's when you ask, you get.
Yeah.
Cool.
In terms of projects, what would you say was the one that you're most proud of, and the one that you had, few challenges with, and what did you learn from that?
Okay. I would say to date, one I'm most proud of is probably my North London project, which is on my website. Now that is purely because this particular client, international client, I actually designed their apartment in St John's Wood when I worked at my previous design company before I had children. Trying to think of dates here. So that was a long time ago. And then after that project completed, I got married, so my name changed. Then I had children and left, and then I worked with my husband. So it was about 7 years later, and all of a sudden, I got a phone call on my husband's work phone through his business. And I was like, oh my God, this is my client from years ago. It's like, how did he get my number? Because he didn't know my new surname. And then he explained that they've bought a new house and they wanted me to design it. It's like, we have to have you to design it. But they tried the previous company that I worked at, and obviously I wasn't there anymore. So he got his daughter to search for me on Facebook.
Oh, wow.
So they only had my maiden name at the time. So you can still find me through my maiden name. So they found me on Facebook, then found out that I'm working with my husband's company, and that's how they found me. So that was a real compliment, that they went to that
so much
those
effort
lengths to find me. So because of that project does have a special place in my heart. And that was a lovely 7,000 square foot home. So we did the whole home there. And the next question was
challenging one.
Challenging.
Yeah. Because sometimes we were saying that we learn a lot from the ones that didn't turn out to be great project, or potentially sometimes when the client wasn't the easiest to work with.
Yeah, that's probably the one that's hitting the button there. Yes. So I'd say one that I learned a lot of lessons on. I've mentioned this before. So So I had a client that was working on their home, and they were coming to some sort of cash flow issues.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at the time, they explained, we need to get the house to this stage before their next lot of funds would be released. And they obviously didn't manage their cash flow well enough.
Mm-hmm.
And that should have been alarm bells ringing, and my business head should have said, well, let's walk away. But I didn't. And I said, it's okay, we'll continue to design till you get to this point, and then you can pay us.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when the time came that I tried to invoice and get my money, everything was questioned, and I learnt my lesson there. I'd never do that again, you know. But sometimes you have to experience these, you know. I realise that you can kind of be too kind sometimes, and sometimes your business head needs to take over.
I want to touch on marketing as well, and how do you attract high-end clients? Do they come from your website, from the activities that you do on social media, or is it mainly from referrals or current clients?
Yeah. So more recently, it's actually been through referrals, through contacts that I've made and relationships that I've made. So working with certain property developers, and they've recommended me, and there's a particular project at the moment where the buyer is now buying their property. Now they've asked me to furnish the property. So it's nice to have projects like that. I haven't invested a huge amount of money on marketing, to be honest. But what I have done is I write some articles for Brains magazine,
yeah, I saw
which
that.
is so global online magazine. That was more about being able to put my message out there, about well-being, just more about what are really important to me in design. Yes, I have been in various local magazines as well. Other things, just networking, to be honest.
Yeah.
Various property, interior related events, and
Do you still attend those?
I do. I do when possible. It's not always easy to attend them all. I haven't actually invested a big amount of money in a big campaign or anything like that. But it's more about, I'm trying to focus more on Instagram. Not that I'm not overly active on it all the time, because when you're trying to do it yourself, it's like a full-time job. So when you're so busy on projects, it's not always easy. But I have noticed, podcasts have helped as well, just actually speaking on podcasts and getting your message out there.
Right.
So that's what I'm trying to do, is just be more active. And the projects, a couple of projects that I've signed up recently have come through Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it does work.
It does. And it's not like I've got thousands of followers,
But you don't need all those.
You don't. I think it's
just,
somebody recommends me, or they've come across me another way. I think Instagram helps to give that sort of recognition and confirmation that, there's more on there than what the website shows.
The human side.
Yes, and there is more. I'll show a bit of my routines. My dog features on it quite a lot.
Do you feel that that's what made them choose you, or was there something else that you feel that you had that it was kind of different from other interior designers?
I think they've come to me because they like what what I've done so far, but I hope, and I would like to say that they also come to me because they like me as a person, and I hope that comes across on social media. I just want to be me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to pretend to be somebody else because I think this is how I should be, you know. So I am who I am. And by being who I am, I'll attract the right clients.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I hope I haven't actually asked that question. Maybe I should do a bit of market research.
Good stuff.
And yes, what is next for you? What is next for Samantha Pope Interiors?
So next, we have some plans. I'm just going to focus on growth at the moment. So just building a solid team around me. Don't know when yet, but that will happen at some point. And I'm just looking forward to the next project and then the next project. I'd love to get a project internationally. I'd like to, you know, that would be like the next step, I think. I'd love a ski chalet, ski lodge. And I'd like to maybe do a hotel as well because I have done some hotel design in the past. So, yeah, putting the feelers out there.
Yeah.
Anyone got a ski lodge?
I have one last question for you. If you had to thank one person for your success, who would it be and what would you say to them?
Thank them. Oh gosh, I feel emotional saying this. I think I would have to thank my husband. Oh gosh. Oh. He has just been an enormous support. I think through all the years where I have lacked confidence in myself, he has always been my biggest supporter. You know, he's been my biggest fan, telling me how amazing I am at what I do, you know. And I think without him, I truly believe I wouldn't be where I am now. You know, he has given me the confidence to go off on my own. And it was a big decision for me to actually separate from his business, actually do it myself. And yeah, he's just been massive support.
Amazing.
Samantha, thank you so much.
Thank you
was
for
lovely.
having
Thank you,
me.
Samantha.
Really lovely chatting.
Yeah,
to
it's
you.
been lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. And if you enjoyed our conversation, feel free to share it with your friends. And if you wish to dive deeper into the business of interior design, we invite you to join our membership community at businessandinteriors.com. Until next time.